I'm Tom Walsh from Parishes Against the Incinerator, and we've been campaigning for about 20 years against a proposal by Ghent Fairhead to build a 600,000 tonne incinerator just outside Coggeshall. Originally it was going to be for landfill, then recycling. Now it's all about incineration. So we're meeting here in Coggeshall at the clock tower, and we're going to walk up to Rivenhall airfield, and there are other colleagues and friends coming in from Cressing, Rivenhall and Silverend. We're basically trying to show, despite the weather, that we are really concerned about this proposal, which will pump out pollution and an extra 400 lorries a day onto the already crowded A120. So we're here, we're going to walk and we're going to show our feelings.
It started off as a proposal for a landfill, then a so-called recycling plant for North Essex, then a so-called integrated waste plant, and now it's in effect more or less an incinerator with a few recycling bits tacked on the side. So it's been a very long campaign going on for very many years.
It's going to be devastating for the bees, the pollination of crops for our food, and also the wild bees. Might contaminate the honey. It's just going to be a disaster all round. And also I worry, because I love nature, the effects it will have on the river. They're going to pump water out the river. Will it go back clean? Will it be a different temperature? Will it be hotter? Will it affect the whole ecosystem of the river? The river runs through my piece of land. We have otters, we've got different varieties of fish, we've got kingfishers, wildlife, all in that small little valley that runs through the willow trees. All this is going to be under the plume.
And we've actually got a reference now, so everything for this gets referenced in one thing. Yeah. So the more respondents they get across this reference, the higher it is. It is now high priority with the planning inspectorate in Manchester, so they are well aware of it. It has now been raised in Parliament. Priti Patel raised it in Parliament in questions a couple of 3 weeks ago, so it is getting profile. Just to put it into perspective, this is the biggest number of objections Essex County Council have ever had on any planning application.
Brilliant.
About 4,000 and counting.
2009, when this changed from being a mixed plant to more or less an incinerator, there were 900 objections. So it's a terrific effort. Everyone's done really brilliantly well.
You can wander around and you can see the Marconi Tower and take pictures of it. You are supposed to be able to replicate the visual impact. If you can send pictures of your own in, say this is the tower, it's 47 metres high, it's just not representative. Any comments you can make are all valid.
My name is Eamon. I don't really agree with this incinerator as it will tower into the sky, seen from miles around. I like the sky being blue and not black most of the year. I mean, in winter probably won't make a huge amount of difference, but in summer it won't be very nice. And there's a lot of wildlife around here, and that won't last much longer.
Yeah, just generally think it's a terrible idea. Obviously, I mean, there's plenty of wealth in the family as far as I can work out from the applicants, and sure there's something they could do that has a social benefit as opposed to this that just has everyone's backs up. No one around here that's aware of it has any support for it. It's just a terrible idea.
I'm seriously concerned about the implications of the potential incinerator. I live really close to the site with a young family, and I've got a son who's got a congenital heart defect, and all the environmental impact reports and everything have stated that if you have an underlying health issue, it could have a significant impact on you. We grow our own vegetables, we rear our own animals on the farm, and it could have a serious impact on my children. And it just seems like a crazy idea to put something like this in the beautiful countryside and ship all of the millions of tons of waste in to do so.
No incinerator! Obviously the air pollution is a concern. Air quality will lower. That was agreed at the 2009 inquiry, so our air will become more polluted, and this plant will operate 24/7. It'll never stop putting stuff out into the atmosphere. I think the other thing we'll notice severely in this area are the HGVs. The proposal is for 404 HGV movements per day, 200 in, 200 out. Although they're supposed to come in on the A120, they could come in on any local road via sat-navs, drivers coming from a long distance away, so it's very likely we could see lorries coming from Coggeshall, Kelvedon, Silverend, Rivenhall, Cressing, etc.
We've got an incinerator that's being built that will burn something like 500, just under 600,000 tonnes a year of waste, commercial industrial waste, which could be anything. It will produce, if we make the assumption that all the waste comes in from out of Essex, which is likely to happen, it will produce 500,000 tonnes of CO2. The truck movements alone, just to bring the fuel in, will generate 13 million truck miles and use 2 million gallons of fuel. And we've just been doing some calculations, and that actually represents more energy wasted in bringing the fuel to it than the incinerator will generate.
According to the documents submitted by the company who are trying to build this incinerator, we live in an industrial landscape. This is one of the many examples of the applicant completely misleading Essex County Council.
As part of our objection, we've also looked at the air quality and the impact of the pollution in the local community. This is not like the A120 or the A12, it affects every community the same way. We took all of the applicant's modelling and combined them with all the local geographic landscape information through the mapping. We then added the school information to it, and we've now found that this will impact something like 89,000 pupils in schools within a 5-mile radius at some point during the year. If you extend that out to 15 miles, 10 to 15 miles, that's 259,000 pupils will get the fallout from this. And I think there's a duty for the people to know about this. There's a duty for the schools to be informed.
Concerned about my children's health with the incinerator being built on the horizon, and as someone that reads a lot about children's health, I've discovered that the General Medical Council released a report last year stating that particulates that will come out of the incinerator can actually get lodged into children's brains, and these can lead to attention deficit disorder, certain learning difficulties and behavioural difficulties. I feel very strongly that to protect all the children at all the schools and around the area, that we should act swiftly and try and stop this incinerator from being built.
There's a 5-way conflict of interest with Essex County Council. They're the Public Health Authority, they're also the Planning Authority, thirdly they're likely to be the client for this scheme, and they would retain 75% of the business rates. So effectively they're judge and jury in what's effectively a scheme they're going to be using and they'll be benefiting from, and therefore the only way this can be decided transparently and in terms of good governance is if it goes to a call-in through the Secretary of State Sajid Javid and is decided by an independent planning inspector.
I do object to the incinerator, but my main points are the fact that in an area where there is an incinerator, it's known, there's facts that recycling statistics go down, so people do not recycle where there's an incinerator facility, and I think that's wrong. There should be governmental policy and attitudes changing towards having better recycling facilities local to where people need them, and we don't need incinerators. It's old technology that is actually damaging people's health.
The same stuff that comes out the top of this chimney comes out of diesel engines, and what is in the news constantly at the moment?
I'm Secretary of the Coggeshall Chamber of Trade and Commerce, and we are focused on promoting Coggeshall as a leisure and tourist destination. 400 additional HGVs will use the A120 behind us, and another 600 using the expanded gravel operations. The incinerator will deal a heavy blow to this rural community and this lovely part of Essex. The health and wealth of those living and visiting here. Please object today.
We know there is a link between air pollution and the negative impact on health, thanks to evidence published by organisations like the Royal College of Physicians, the National Audit Office and the British Lung Foundation. Despite that, this incinerator looks like it's going to go ahead. It's going to burn 595,000 tonnes of waste every year. We also know that in the Royal College of Physicians report there's a link between preterm birth and air pollution. If I choose to have another child after the incinerator has been built, that child could be born prematurely.
This is Woodhouse Farm. It is 16th century. Ghent Fairhead have a duty to protect this farmhouse. So far they have just put metal roof on it and boarded up the windows. We feel they need to do more to protect this building.
One of the documents being provided is called a location visual impact assessment or something like that, and it assesses the overall impact of an increase in stack height in the local area. The first thing is that they have classified this beautiful countryside as industrial when clearly it isn't. There is a point of reference locally, and that is the Marconi Tower. It's been here for a long time. It's 47 metres high. The documentation that they are presenting shows the stack the same height as this, but the stack is actually 11 metres higher and is completely misrepresented by all of their visual viewpoints.